Welcome to the first episode of I Am an Asset podcast. I am your co-host, Dr. Brianne Smith.
And I'm your other co-host, Zachary Wilson.
And today we're going to overview our podcast and what we're all about. We're going to talk a little bit about Zachary and how he's preparing for college, for his upcoming senior year, and then how I've been helping him prepare for college.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and dive into what's this podcast about. This particular segment that involves me will be over the next year, and in that next year, we're going to be talking about.
Well, we're going to be talking about your personal capital, Zachary, and I think that's the main theme of this podcast ongoing. And this first session is going to be all about you and your personal capital, what it is, where you are with it, and where you want to be with it at the end of your senior year.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to improving upon what I've already done so far and accomplished, and there's a lot that will stress me out, and it'll be a lot of work, but there's a lot of fun stuff to discover at the same time. So for those who don't know, what is personal capital?
Okay, I'm so glad you asked, because I think we're going to have to continue to talk about what personal capital is, but just in general, personal capital is how you as an individual set yourself up for making money in the world, your earnability, and how you can use that to either make money in a job or make money in the stock market or any other kind of passive type of investment. Your personal capital is made up of characteristics that you were born with, like your gender, who your parents are, the education of your parents, your race, things that you can't change. You were born with those. But then their personal capital is also made up of things that you can improve and can change, like your education, your skill set, your work experience. And we're really going to focus in on those things, because personal capital can be improved, but it can also decrease. So we want to highlight Zachary's senior year, because this is a time to really set yourself up for success as far as personal capital goes.
So as she described, personal capital is something that can increase or decrease. You can improve it or it can depreciate in value. So does that have anything to do, like the asset metaphor, does that have anything to do with the title of our podcast?
Absolutely. So I'm glad you brought it up. The way we came up with the name of this podcast is really regarding the theme. So I am an asset is how we really want you to think about yourself and how you can use your skills and your knowledge to make money, build relationships, get involved in the community, even be a philanthropist even. So I am an asset is just a way that we're trying to keep that on the forefront of your mind, and that's what we're really focused on, is improving yourself and really maintaining and taking care of yourself, just like you would a piece of real estate or a car or artwork. You have to take care of yourself, and self-care is part of that too.
Mm-hmm. And in case it was not prevalent to you, I am her son. So I can't remember if that has been established or not yet, but we're structuring the podcast like this because we're going to follow, as we said, my senior year, and how I improve and depreciate my own personal capital. And hopefully along the way, we can demonstrate some knowledge for how you can do the same, no matter what age you are. The principles are still there. So why don't we move to, because senior year is quickly approaching, August is almost here. That's when it starts. But what have I've been doing up until this point before my senior year to build on my personal capital? My junior year was mainly filled with soccer, academics, and
you worked some too.
Working, yes. Yeah. Not necessarily in that order of priority, but I do put academics first because, the college process definitely holds GPA in high regard. And there's even some particular classes you can take that if you do well enough in them, you can even knock off some of your time at college. And that has been my goal because I don't want to rack up student loans, and I don't want to spend more time learning if I can get the learning done faster and get a job faster and get adult money faster.
Right. And one thing that sticks out to me that you focused on a lot your junior year is the ACT exam.
Yes. In it, the colleges also look at the standardized test scores, whether that be the ACT or SAT. Now, in the region where we live, typically the ACT is more prioritized, but it can change. And standardized tests have actually become optional at some schools. But if you want decent scholarships, which is what I'm looking for, because I'm trying to, save money throughout this whole process, you definitely want to have those test scores. And it's a lot of pressure doing well on these tests when you have all these other classes to study for, and you only get to take the test every couple of months, and some people might only take it 2 or 3 times. I've taken it several times because I'm trying to reach a high score.
Can we talk about what your goal score is?
I don't think it particularly matters what your score is, but I think that word goal is definitely important to keep in mind. I would set a goal and not just, try to get everything right, because that's extremely difficult. I would look at maybe some scholarships the college or school you're is offering, and see what the minimum standardized test score requirements are for that scholarship, and then maybe set that as a goal. They say shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you'll hit the stars. I wish it was like that for the ACT. It's just a lot of pressure going into these tests. I mean, it's a 4-hour test. And
can I ask you about that? Because you said it's a lot of pressure a couple of times. So in your mind, where is the pressure coming from just related to the ACT? Like you taking the ACT, where's the pressure coming from?
Well, you're only able to take it every couple of months. So it's and the test is 4 hours. So you don't really have a lot of time to reassess and calm yourself. You kind of just got to drive your way through it and not lose focus, because if you lose focus, you're wasting time, precious time. And they're not free either. They can cost
couple $100.
Yeah, about $100, and even more if you want to get a TIR, which just shows you what sections on the test, how you did on those sections.
What is TIR?
Probably something report.
It's related to how you did and where you can improve.
Mm-hmm. Normally they just show you your composite score, but if you order a TIR, it'll actually break down not only what you got in every section, but what subset. If it was math, it might say trigonometry, you missed some or something like that, some section of math.
So when you get that TIR back, you use that on how you prepare for the next time you take it.
Yes,
that been helpful?
It's very helpful. And I believe the SAT, with it being electronic now, it even offers plugins where you can share the report with some websites, and they'll actually curate a curriculum for you based off of what you need to learn. And that, I did not really take advantage of that, but I think if you know about it, hear it from me or any other place, I would definitely look into it if you're trying to increase your score. It's definitely an efficient way to do it. I've taken it several times, and each time is $100. You'd be thinking, wouldn't it just be cheaper to miss out on the scholarship and just not spend the money on the tests, and to just use the money from the test as the scholarship money? Well, I thought about this, but if you actually get high enough scholarships, it could be, I mean,
thousands and
thousands and thousands of dollars.
It's not even comparable, yeah.
In tuition alone, and the higher ones even have stipends worth several grand as well.
Yeah.
And that and like book costs from some stipends. There's even some scholarships that will give you study abroad money. There's all kinds of stuff, and so in my mind, it was worth it. The question is all the stress worth it?
Yeah, well, I think I really like your that you have a goal, but I also think there's, at some point there's other things that you're going to need to focus on this senior year that I think will also be beneficial to college. So can we talk about preparing for college and where you're thinking about going and what's the process of preparing right now? Where are you at with that?
So this was actually a lot of this same stuff was going through my head yesterday because I attended a virtual meeting about the college application process and the scholarship process. And it really made me reflect on what I've done these past 3 years, because I say that because normally this kind of what they start to look at starts ninth grade or high school. When you go into high school, they start looking at like your GPA will be considered when you start high school. All of your volunteering, all of your employment stuff, that will all be starting to be considered when you go into high school. And so it really made me, because I didn't get a job, I think, until I could drive, which was my 10th grade year. And I didn't really start volunteering a lot until my 11th grade year.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd be surprised, all the way back until you were like 14 or 15, you could start preparing your resume and awards that colleges will look at.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you want to talk about resumes for a bit?
Yeah, I think that somebody gave me some really good advice when I was preparing for an academic career, which is, I know, a little bit farther ahead, but it's the same concept in that someone said you really prepare your curriculum vitae, which is called, for short, CV, which is a longer version of a resume. And the first time somebody ever asked me for my CV when I was a first-time professor, and I started looking at, what are all the sections that go on a CV, I was like, well, I didn't really have a whole lot to put on it. And a resume is very similar. And so what I did then was use the outline of the CV as kind of like a goal for what I was going to try to do each year so that I had more stuff to put on my CV as I went through. So I think when you're starting high school, it's a good idea to get started on your resume. It's going to be, blank mostly when you start. But when you think about the categories of a resume, then you can start building it over, those 3-4 years of high school. So I know you have a resume. How did you... What kind of things do you think are important to consider when you start building the resume?
I think just start. No matter if you're in middle school, I would put middle school as like the starting point. Lower school is probably fine. Like if you're in elementary school, I wouldn't worry about it as much.
Mm-hmm.
But I say middle school because people are like, well, I don't have any accomplishments yet to put on my resume. Well, unless you make a resume, when you do get those accomplishments, you're likely not going to remember, like, oh my gosh, I have a place to put this. And something I wish I'd done sooner was just start it, because there's lots of things I did that I just unfortunately don't remember, because I wasn't like keeping track of them until I realized it was important as my mother pointed out to me. And then we started. It was around my 10th grade year that we started keeping a resume. And that was because I was looking for a job.
Yeah.
And that was because I could drive.
Mm-hmm.
When you can drive, when you're old enough to drive, you kind of have like an extra responsibility. But with that responsibility comes the privilege to be able to work and earn money and learn more from that job as well.
Well, something I've really noticed about after you've started your resume and we really put one, a nice one together for that. And every time you do something or you accomplish something, you immediately put it on your resume. It's so satisfying to add to it as you have a different job or you get a promotion or you won an award, which you won a few awards last year. You do maybe some community service. You are involved in an organization. So I think all of those things are fun to document somewhere once you accomplish them, and you are very good at keeping yours up to date. It's kind of like documenting your personal capital. That's what a resume
That's
really
a good way
is.
to put it. Yeah.
It's like the sections of your personal capital that you have control over.
And I'll point out that you don't necessarily, your resume is not necessarily going to be full of things you enjoy, because a lot of the accomplishments you put on it are difficult to achieve and they require hard work. And so I often found myself when I had a resume, and when opportunities were presented to me, it was no longer do I or do I want to do that. It was more of, would this look good on my resume? And that became the motivation for starting to branch out of my comfort zone and begin gaining accomplishments, because a lot of this stuff is not fun to do. It's hard.
And you can't fill your life with just, things that you feel like you have to do. And you have a nice way of balancing the things that you have to do and the things that you love to do. I'd love to hear more about this meeting that you went to yesterday and what was all discussed yesterday in this meeting.
And that actually, yes, in the meeting, they actually said, they talked about the application process, and in that, what they said, in your application, they want to know, oh, you've had a job? Well, tell us every hour you've worked the past 3 years. Oh, you've volunteered? Where have you volunteered? Who did you volunteer for? And what did you do? And how many hours did you volunteer every week? And my resume has been very general. Like, I did this for a number of weekends, but not like that. So avoid that mistake. Here's my piece of advice, is to just be as specific as you can. Right after you've done it and you're putting it on your resume, put all the details you can then, because you're not going to remember them later. And it helps to overcompensate than to reflect and look back and be like, I have no clue how many hours I did for that. So they talked about that, and then you wanted to know what else.
Well, what was the title of this meeting? Who was this meeting with? Like, who was there?
It was a college application process, and scholarship process run through
for the University of Alabama.
Yes.
Okay. Were there other students there?
There were about 70 students in there. Yes.
And it was like a Zoom meeting.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And how long did it last?
About an hour.
Okay. And did one person talk or multiple people?
I believe 4 people talked, each within their own fields. Some people were recruiting specialists for a specific region or for like scholarships, and some were just with the application process, and then some were actually students that were currently enrolled there.
Okay. And so the reason you wanted to attend was, what was your goal for attending this meeting yesterday?
Because I had no clue about any of those processes, and I wanted to know more, because ultimately my goal is to save a lot of money on the college process, but I'm not going to do that by hoping for it. I have to kind of take initiatives like this and learn, and it's not fun, but it can definitely help in the long run. And I do recommend, biting the bullet, and just, you'll thank yourself later.
And by that, you mean spending the time to research deadlines, scholarship opportunities, the process that you have to go through for the application. I mean, one thing I'm really curious about from your meeting yesterday, I wonder if you got the answer to what are the dates that are important?
Well, it's definitely going to vary between every college. This isn't for only people interested in going to the University of Alabama, but typically those scholarships are going to come in the later the year, I believe, like January, I believe is the deadline. But a general thing to keep in mind is though you have deadlines, like let's say you have you want to go to these 3 different colleges, and all of their deadlines for the scholarship application essays or whatever are in January. Well, I would not wait until January to do it. If it's like July like it is right now, I would like maybe do one in August, maybe do one in October, maybe do one in December, because it takes time and to think about what you want to say on these very big life questions, but also it's gonna very much hurt your creativity if you're writing these all back to back. Maybe even within the same week, it would be hard to do all of these.
The applications you're talking about are scholarship applications.
Well, yeah, a regular college applications, the same principle could be applied.
Well, so I'm confused because I think they're 2 different deadlines. I think you have to apply to the college first.
Yes. Oh, I didn't know that was what you were asking.
Yeah. So yeah, that's around what time? We got to apply
around the start of the fall semester, which would be around August.
So this upcoming year, you're going to start applying for colleges in August, and then you're going to start thinking about scholarships sometime later in the fall, or you're going to start, because not all scholarship applications are just related to that specific school. Like you can do other outside scholarships too, which at some point we need to talk about.
Yes, and I'm going to look into external scholarships as well because let me actually, this is a great opportunity to go over a personal capital kind of principle. There's a lot of things you can do to increase your personal capital, but personal capital is not measured the same way with every person. It conventionally, GPA, like what colleges look at, is held in high regard as a valuable piece of personal capital. Or athletic ability, like I'm relating this all to college because this is what we're talking about. Even athletic ability, colleges will look at and say, we'll give you money if you come and play for our school. Yeah. We see you as valuable because you're athletic. But I want everyone to who's listening to understand that what a majority of people generally categorize as valuable or as accomplishments, like good personal capital, is not going to be the same for everybody. If you're really good with people, that kind of social ability is not as easy to measure. And if you're a very hard worker and you kind of have a mind that just does really well with organization, could be some great management positions out there for you, but it might not be yet as easy to say what you're good at on a piece of paper. If you understand what I'm getting at, is that each one of us has our own unique set of abilities, and I don't doubt that each person out there has something they can bring to the table, whether or not it's measured how we normally measure value.
But and I think that's where a resume can be. You can be really creative with how you put your resume together. Number one, to show or represent those other kind of abilities that are different from your GPA, different from the sport team that you were involved in and the position that you play on that team. There's other things that you can put on your resume to show that you're a good people person or you're great with networking, which I agree with you, makes for great managers, salesperson, leaders, people, entrepreneurs, are great, can be great people persons. But also, I think it's interesting that you highlighted the scholarship aspect of it. Is some scholarships are not only looking at GPA and maybe these other things like did your parents also go to this
Yeah.
school, but related to what you were just saying, these other abilities.
That's what I was getting at when we were talking about the external scholarships. Is the external scholarships are a great way for hopefully other people to recognize that you do have a lot to bring to the table, and they hopefully can reward you in ways that big schools cannot. Because if you ask me, off the top of my head, I would say big schools typically look at GPA,
ACT.
leadership, and athletic ability.
And ACT scores, like your standard.
That's, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, but there's other opportunities, especially for people who will take the time to, like, if you're a great writer or you're really creative, you have the opportunity to write essays for scholarships that could get you money outside of school. In addition to, you know, some of the college scholarships also have essays. So I think these are some things that I'm definitely going to be interested in hearing about along the way as you are applying for things, being involved in things that are scholarship related. But I also really want to make sure we keep up with where are you in the college process, not just the money side, but the application side. I mean, you've got a lot of big decisions to make, Zachary, like where are you going to be, in state, out of state? What do you want to major? Yeah. What do you want to major in? Which feels like you got to pick the career now so that you can pick the major. So, have you put some thought into what you want to do with your life, Zachary?
Well, if I could answer this question easily, I would not have a lot of internal struggle off camera. I would say that each university has different amounts of money it can give each person, and they might be able to have more advanced technology than other schools. But each university also has specific fields they specialize in education in. Mm-hmm. So I always figured that wherever I wanted to go to school would depend on what I want to do with my career, because I would have to find out what education does my career require and then what college teaches that. And she's definitely helped me with that process a lot of kind of explaining, because she already knows a lot about me being my mother. And so I didn't have to go to some website and punch in, you know, what are you good at? Do you think you could see yourself doing this? She already knows what I'm good at for the most part. And she could say, I think you would be good at this. And why don't we explore that and see if that would be a good career for you? And I hope that everyone can find their own way to do that. Those websites, I'm not downing on them in any way. They are great. I would utilize them.
Yeah, they really are. But also, like, I think you made a good point there where what you have done is you're really thinking about, what do I want to do with my life? That will determine what I want to major in. And then what I want to major in will, depending on what colleges are known for that or good for that, will be what you consider as far as where you're going to apply. So I think that's good. But I also want to point out that you might have more opportunity to go to just more than one school, because particularly for the career choice you're thinking about, you will need a master's degree as well. So you'll need an undergrad and a master's. So where you might have a business degree from one school and you might have the particular specialization in your master's program at another school, that might also springboard you even further. So there's some opportunity there to go to more than one place. Also, how much of proximity to home are you taking into consideration for where you go to school?
I definitely value my family very much. And I kind of just reflecting on, you know, when we've gone on family trips to see relatives, you know, we have one relative that lives like 5 hours away from us. And I remember, like, I love this relative and I wish I could see them more often, but it's just difficult too. And I thought, you know, it's a grandparent of mine. I would want my I eventually, I'm getting into a lot here. I eventually would want my kids to see their grandparents. So I was like, if I could get a job that pays, how much money I want to earn, and I could live near my family, then I would do that. And so, what was the question?
How much are you really considering college versus how close to home it is? It's
Yeah.
like, how important to your decision is it?
Okay. So, this is interesting because I wanted to say that I want to go to college and still be close enough to my family to see them, if ever need be, but not like too close. And she's emphasized that she does not want me to be too close.
I am 100% on board with that too. And this is because I think college has other benefits to it other than just you're going to get this education.
Definitely.
But it also has 4 years of an opportunity for you to grow up a little bit in a place where a lot of other people are also growing up at the same time. And so it's a nice transitional experience for you to be an adult, but not like throw you into being an adult.
Yeah. And college, it's a great, like, they have all the food you're going to need. You have a place to go. If you even have a job on campus, like, you got a job on campus, and you don't really, it's like a haven from wherever you're going to experience the city of wherever you are, but also, like, not be, like, if you're going to college in New York and you've lived in the South all your life, you might need, like, a place to stay and figure stuff out. So, and like a purpose to achieve while you're wherever you are. So you can travel the world, and some colleges encourage that with, like, grants and stuff. And you can, find out some more things about yourself and learn just what life's about. But not just, like, the places you go, but the people you'll see while you're there. Because as we said, let's say your college specializes in business and you want to pursue a business career. And so you find a college that has a great business education program. If you go to that college, there's going to be a lot of other people there also looking for a business program. So their colleges are kind of these coalitions of people with the same interest as you. And considering a lot of people my age are transitioning to college at this time, it's not only people with the same interests as you, but people that are the same age as you, and people that have probably just gone through what you've gone through, like high school and like all these other processes. So it's also a great opportunity to meet new people and to just kind of grow your social sphere and find communities you really like. Because a lot of colleges offer, like, clubs and stuff too, which is even more sharing interests with people you find there. So it's not just like a place you can explore wherever you're going, but you can also explore people that are like you.
Yeah, and those are all really good points, but also experience being around and getting to know people who are not like you. And I think your experience in middle school, lower school, high school has been very much of a bubble, if I could say that, in that you go to a school where there are people a lot like you. And I think it will be very good for you to go to a school a little bit farther away where you can experience more diversity and different cultures, people from other states, people from other backgrounds. I think it's very good to experience difference. And you made some really good points too about college is not just about getting the degree, but it's about the networking side, the people that you're going to meet. I mean, there are people that I met when I went to school that I still talk to. I still talk to professors from 25 years ago that I went to school with. So those are all really great points. I think that's maybe one of the main parts I'm trying to play in your college career choice journey, that's really coming to a head. Like we're fixing to get to the point where you're going to need to make those application decisions. And I've really enjoyed kind of walking alongside your thought process and how you're picking where you apply. We've certainly visited different campuses. Do you think that's important to visit the campus that you're going to attend?
Yes, and I've been very narrow-sighted when it comes to which colleges I'm interested in. Mainly because I don't know I don't know 100% what career I want to go into. But I would definitely do those campus tours because, as I said, there's new places that you're going to discover and new people you'll meet, but you shouldn't necessarily have to make the commitment of spending thousands of dollars to go to an institution just to discover those things. That's what campus tours are for, is to find out the life, the people. And for me, it was the environment. I really want to, if I'm going to spend this much money to go to school, I want to spend the next 4 years in a place that's really pretty and has
things to do. Like,
yeah.
I'm not going to name schools or anything, but you remember we have recently been to a college outside of the state of Alabama where you did a soccer camp where I felt like there was nothing to do. And
it was literally like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And so that right away, even though the camp was great, maybe not somewhere you'd want to go to school.
Yeah, that's definitely, yeah. Yeah.
So I think I'd like to, as we're wrapping up this conversation, this first episode, which is really, I've actually learned some stuff today, Zachary. I want to finish with maybe just a couple of things as far as, Zachary, what are your goals? Not for you personally, but like, what would you like to make sure we achieve as we follow your journey this next 12 months? What do you want to make sure we relay to people as we're following your senior year? What's your goal with this podcast and what we're sharing?
Let me think about, okay. If I could give one message that's related to kind of the message we're also trying to relay with this podcast, is I'll just say there's stuff you have to do to go into this next stage of life. You have to increase your personal capital. You have to find accomplishments and do credible things that increase your value as a person. And I would say, I said this earlier, I would say that all these things are not easy and they require a lot of hard work. And for someone who tends to fill every waking hour with something productive, it could be stressful at times. But don't lose sight of the bigger picture. And remember that what you're doing for a good reason. And hopefully others are there to support you through it. Because it can be overwhelming at times. And if you need to take a step back and breathe, it's going to be better for you in the long run when it comes to accomplishing your other goals better if you need a rest.
Yeah.
But definitely hard work through it all is required.
So you're saying you want to help people, maybe motivate people into doing the work because it's going to pay off.
I'm definitely a hard work
Absolutely
guy. Yeah.
And then if I could share what my goal is, and I think we're just circling back to where we started at the beginning of this episode, which is why we started this particular podcast in the first place, is you have some really great questions because you're a hard worker and because college and your career and you think about your future a lot, because you have good questions, because you care about those things. You and I have great conversations, and we just thought we ought to share that with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so my goal for this next year is for people to hear what you're really thinking about along the way, because I think your questions and the answers to those questions and the conversations that we have are going to help other people through those probably have the same questions.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff I don't know and a lot of stuff I'm going to find out. And hopefully our viewers can find out those things too if they need them.
Yeah. So here's to the first episode. And cheers to your senior year. Really looking forward to more conversations with you and more episodes to come.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.